Ciao, Juventini of the world. It is your MTS here, back here with another video. And today I'm hoping to, I was thinking of talking about Juventus, and I'm hoping to focus on Juventus. I know I talked a bit about them, or covered some reaction videos to some of their videos from YouTube yesterday or last night or whatever. But yeah, I thought I'd talk about Juventus. I was thinking of doing so on New Year's Day, because it's like, I was thinking the word Juventus kind of reminds me of NEWventus. As in a new, I was thinking of like a new Juventus. By the way, I've got my nice Italy top. I don't know if you probably can't see it, but that's from when they won the World Cup. My mum's friend gave me this. She's actually from Italy. But yeah, I hope Juventini around the world, and also just kind people who are kind enough to share and support my content will check out these videos, these 4-part videos, and be kind enough to give me views and like and share the videos and that kind of thing. I've decided to do it in my usual list form, although I was thinking, because today's the 11th, I'm thinking of like changes and how I'd love to do different things, but I am a creature of habit, so I do struggle to make those changes and that kind of thing. So, but I was hoping to talk about what I'd love for Juventus to change, and because I was thinking it's like a change, I was going to do so on New Year's Day, but I decided to do it on the 11th, as I was covering videos about Milan, AC Milan, as a fan of Italian football generally, and someone with the mad sort of thing where I love all the Italian teams as well, Celtic. But anyway, I'll try not to waffle, and here are some of my ideas and thoughts on Juventus, and perhaps what they could change, what they could do to improve, and things like that. I think that covers everything for the intro. I hope you'll share it with Juventus fans all around the world, and people who are kind enough to support, and share my channel. And I also hope Celtic fans will support my channel as well, so Italian football fans generally as well. But yeah, here goes. So number one, on the subject of change, I would love to see what Juventus could do to change, what they could do to improve, and people to share ideas about what they could do to improve, like how they could avoid some of the scandals. I was going to say in the intro that it's a bias of mine to support Italian teams. I know they're not always the most ethical. I often say it's like a guilty pleasure. I support them because I supported them when I was young. It's because I think I look Italian. But it's a shame, I think, that Juventus was involved in like the Calciopoli scandal, and more recently some financial scandals and that kind of thing. So I'd love for the club to get new owners, and I'd love for the new owners to look at what they could do to change some of those scandals so that they would ensure that they will stick within the law. I think it would be quite ironic if Italian teams, especially, worked on anti-corruption and worked with FIFA and UEFA on how to tackle corruption and even all forms of law breaking through football, how football could be used to tackle things like match fixing, corruption and crime generally. And I'd love for Italian teams such as Juventus to be involved in such, working with Celtic as well, to tackle corruption and that kind of thing, and to ensure the best team wins, and not, or even if it's the luckiest team, but it's not a team based on decisions. But sum up point number one, I would love to read from and hear from people about what Juventus can do to change, to make sure that they don't fall foul of breaking rules within FIFA or UEFA or Italian football itself or whatever, to ensure that they encourage law abidance, law obeying, whatever the correct word is, or whatever the best word is, rather than law breaking, and how they can do be part of football for good and things like that. So yeah, what can they change to ensure that they don't make those same mistakes like the Calciopoli scandal, something where they recently got a 15-point deduction. I think it was reversed in the end, but there was something about the signing of Ronaldo and some other players, and things like that. So if new owners came in, or even the current owners, it'd be great if they learned from those mistakes and ensure they don't happen in the future. So obviously the club doesn't get fines and points deductions and demotions and things like that. And how can they improve their image, and that kind of thing. I'd love to, as I say, read from and hear different ideas from different people all around the world, especially obviously Juventus fans, but even people just generally who have ideas. Number two, I'd love for people to learn about Juventus and the facts and figures about Juventus and its history and what it means. In English, Juventus means youth. So I think the club should have more young players. Again, I have to come to that point in more details. But I'd also love to look at what the club can learn. I often think as a benchmark, to borrow a term other people use. Real Madrid are the biggest benchmark, I think, in football, in club team football at least. So I think it'd be cool if Juventus could learn, Juventus and other Italian teams as well, Celtic could look at what they can learn from Real Madrid. There might be some things that can't be replicated that Real Madrid does well, or funds that they get or whatever, but if they could find any sort of ideas they could copy, dare I say, and replicate and put into practice, then I think that'd be pretty cool. I know copying ideas isn't always seen in the best light, but if we think about it, I think people copy each other all the time, even subconsciously. That's how we learn in many ways. And if it benefits the club within the rules of the game, within the law and things like that, I think a lot of ideas can't be copyrighted. Another thing I almost forgot to say actually is I'd love to go to Turin in this case, or across Italy really, but I'd love to go to Turin and work with Juventus, but because of my mad sort of thing about wanting to support all Italian teams as well as Celtic, I would love to go to work with Juventus and Torino, even though they're rivals, and even Inter and in Milan and that kind of thing, and all over Italy. But yeah, I'd love to see what other people can learn about Juventus in this case, and also what Juventus can learn from teams like Real Madrid and others, especially successful teams, or even sometimes less successful teams, like what mistakes they make, or even themselves, like their history, like what could they learn about from the Calciopoli scandal and from financial scandals and mistakes they've made, and things like that. How can they ensure that they stick within the rules, for instance, and don't get penalised and that kind of thing, and show that they are operating within the rules of the game and avoiding any scandals or anything like that as much as possible. And certainly, I think they should stand for that as a club on their website and on their channel, on the YouTube channel, and things like that, on their social media, socials, and all that kind of thing. I think the club should stand for sticking within the law and things like that. And also, it would be great talking about what they could learn. One of the things is learning how to attract investment. So even teams like Man United or Liverpool or Chelsea or whatever, Newcastle obviously, or whatever other teams. I was thinking, as Newcastle playing black and white, maybe the PIF could invest in another team in black and white, just as they've invested in Newcastle, which is obviously Juventus. Moving on to point number 3, I think it was the Qataris apparently who were going to invest in Man United. Supposedly they were interested in investing in Man United, but I was thinking, as a fan of Italian football, I would rather they invest in Juventus. I was thinking, like, it's a bit of a dilemma, because part of me would love for Qatar and Dubai and some other wealthy Arabs or people around the world to invest in Juventus, but another part of me would love for them to invest in Roma, because Roma's nickname is the Giallorossi, so I'd love for them to become the Giallorossi Galacticos. So I'm stuck in two minds about this, but part of me, initially I thought it'd be cool if Qatar and even Dubai together invested, and possibly even some other wealthy Arabs, maybe even PIF as well. So maybe they could get all 3 investors, but part of me wants them to invest in Roma. But as a fan of Italian football generally, I would love for them to invest in any Italian team and help them to do well in Europe and internationally, which is what I want for Italian teams to do. I know only a certain amount, only about 3 of them can win trophies in Europe each season, and World Club Cups and the Super Cup and things like that. But I'd love for Italian teams to get as much investment as possible legally being the key word. Number 4, I'd love for them to be part of Football for Good and look at what football can be done to make, how football can be used, to make positive things. And again, they can work with FIFA and UEFA and others to do so. And I hope the club will improve its PR, its image, and things like that. And also, encouraging people to obey the law, looking at what they can do to help young people to learn about sticking within the law, improving their diets, not smoking, drinking, taking drugs perhaps, or things like that. Basically doing whatever diets, rather, will make them the best possible footballers, playing as a team, and those sorts of good values. In my opinion, it would be great for the club. Obviously these videos are all about my own personal opinion, but it'd be great for the club and Italian teams to do that generally, along with Celtic, as I say. And I think the club already does have a foundation, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so I hope they'll show what they can do for charity, and I think it'd be great, especially if they get those wealthy owners to also do a lot for charity, which I think, as well as winning on the pitch, it will be good for the club's PR and also obviously it's good to do good, I think, anyway. And number 5, I'd love to hear from Juventus fans about what your dreams are, any Juventus fans out there. And I hope, as an incentive for Juventus fans, to check out these videos as well as sharing your own ideas in the comments and promoting Juventus and talking about your own ideas and facts about Juventus and what people can learn about Juventus, any facts and statistics, facts and stats and that kind of thing. If I do, I often say, like, whatever the title is of my video, if it's on a particular group or topic, like an Italian team or Celtic or a charity I wish to support or whatever, it could be like the homeless, if I make a video about the homeless or stuff like that. Whatever money I make from that video, if it ever gets monetized, hopefully one day it will, or they will, then so it would I would donate to those sorts of causes or things, in this case Juventus. So if Juventus fans help me to, if they subscribed and helped me to go viral with these videos or whatnot, and shared it amongst other Juventus fans and maybe make your own versions and things like that, and we network together, then I would use I would try and fundraise for the club, for Juventus as much as possible. But yeah, I'd love to read from and hear from other fans, and maybe you could make your own reaction videos, as I often say, and post in the comment section. I was thinking, I'll say, because it's the 11th, and I want 11 for me is like a number I think of, like innovation and ideas and things like that, but also change. But as a creature of habit, it's quite difficult to change, and also certain numbers remind me of certain things, so I do struggle to think of something new, which I generally try and do, especially for the 11th. Number 6, I would love to see how Juventus can benefit Italian football generally. I often wonder, as I say, if I've said in previous videos, if like the best possible players, coaches, managers, scouts and whatnot, I suppose scouts, the whole point of scouts is to bring in the best possible players, coaches, managers and whatnot, if they come to Serie A, to Italian football. I'm sure they could benefit the whole of the game, so even rival teams in Serie A could benefit, hopefully, or Italian football generally. So having a change, I'm stuck in two minds again about whether I'd love to see Pep at Juventus or I would love to see him at Roma or another Italian team. But I'd be happy to see managers like that at any Italian team, or someone like Ange Postecoglou who could change the way Juventus plays. So I think it'd be interesting to see if someone like Pep Guardiola or Ange Postecoglou or someone like that came in and brought that attacking style of play and fast-paced style of play to a team like Juventus. I think it'd be interesting to see what they could do. But I think they should develop a lot of young players as well and give them game time, so that it'll benefit the national team as well. I'd love to see Pep Guardiola and people like that managing the national team as well, maybe. I think it'd be interesting. Like, people are talking about Pep Guardiola potentially managing England in the future, but I'd love to see him go to Serie A and then manage the Azzurri, the Italian national team, of course. Number 7, I'd love to see Italian teams like Juventus, I often say, having partnerships with Celtic, again, within the rules of the game, and looking at what they can do to learn from each other, how they can have practice matches together, especially at youth level, 7-a-side matches and things like that, for instance. Again, especially for younger players to learn and that kind of thing. Number 8, I hope no one gets a wrong impression on this. Like, as I say, with a lot of my ideas and thoughts and my quirky way of thinking, but I was thinking Juventus, it reminds me of the term like Juventus, as well as NEWventus. It also reminds me of Juventus. So I was thinking, because they're playing black and white as well, what if Juventus supported diversity? So they, as a club, tackled discrimination, and that's one of the things I think they should change. And I think it'd be interesting if they got they got investment from like Arabs, Muslim organizations, Christian organizations, and Jewish investors as well. So it's sort of symbolically they could talk about how people from different backgrounds get along. And I'd love for Juventus to get investment from across Africa, Asia, and all around the world, and at the same time to discourage discrimination as a club. Interesting. I think it's rather interesting. I was reading on Google about some of the stuff Juventus were working on. I think one of the things they were talking about is like one of the things the website was talking about is like tackling discrimination. And I think it would be quite fitting, because Juventus play in black and white, for Juventus to discourage discrimination and like talk about how Muslims, Arabs, Jewish people, and whoever else can get along, hopefully. And it'd be interesting if they got investment, I'd say, from Arabians, Jewish people, Muslims, Christians, and all sorts of different people from different backgrounds and religions and things like that. So again, supporting diversity, and I would love to see, I would say, Arabian and Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, and whatever investors from all different backgrounds, including from Africa. And as a club, hopefully they will discourage discrimination, which will encourage the club, encourage people from all different religions, races, ethnicities, backgrounds, and that kind of thing, nationalities and whatnot, to support Juventus. I know Italian football does have a racist problem, so if Juventus could discourage discrimination, hopefully that will encourage people around the world from all different backgrounds to support the club, and even invest in the club. And investors perhaps who come in from Africa and around the world, hopefully, again from Arab nations and whatnot, and have shares or equity in the club, can hopefully also talk about tackling discrimination and that kind of thing. Number 9, I hope to promote any companies that invest in Juventus and say positive things about them and support their PR. At the moment, I'm banned from, temporarily suspended from Facebook. I hope I get my account back, obviously, but on Facebook, hopefully in the future, and YouTube, and maybe even using other, and maybe I could even use other forms of social media, or have my own website in the future or whatever. At the moment, I'm happy to focus on Facebook and YouTube, but I think it'd be even better if I have my own website and things like that maybe in the future, where I can promote companies that invest in Italian teams like Juventus, and also that invest in Celtic and that kind of thing to improve their PR. And number 10, once again, I think the club should do more to invest in the youth and bring through a lot of younger players, give them, for instance, giving them game time in the senior games. So I think they should play at least 3. I think with all Italian teams, but especially Juventus, as it means youth in English, I think they should have one of the best, if not the best, youth facilities in Italy, or if not around the world, and also develop young players, maybe even from all different nationalities, but especially Italian ones. So I think they should be given more game time for younger players, which is a difficult balance to get right, because I think obviously the fans want to win trophies now or in the short term, but I think for developing for the long term as well. So it's a difficult balance to get older and more experienced and wiser players, again, experienced and that kind of thing, and more younger players who can win in the future and longer term. But I think they should always play at least 3 under 21, preferably Italian players, or the youngest team they can play, whilst having some experienced players, like maybe the goalkeepers and defenders could be a bit more experienced. But even then, I think they should try and develop more younger goalkeepers and defenders if they can, but especially midfielders and strikers. And I'd also love to see what the club can do to create the next, to produce the next players like Zidane, players like that, especially in Italy itself, and maybe work with Italian politicians, councillors, policymakers, the FIGC, Italian FA, and the Azzurri and that kind of thing, to look at how they can help them to give young players a chance to practice their skills and improve and things like that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, especially Juve fans and anyone who's kind enough to support my channel. And so thanks so much if you made it this far, listening to me waffle. And please don't hold back your comments and that kind of thing. I'm out. Peace out.